Are we live right now, guys?
Yes.
Yo, Alex, I'm so salty about this Pixel, and we're gonna get to that, okay, man? Like, we're gonna get to that for sure. I will say that this week in BlackBerry is kind of like more interesting than some of the other ones. I think you guys might agree. One of the main things I saw pop up on CrackBerry that I thought was interesting to start the week was that news about, or really just like the release of that patent. Did you guys happen to take a look at that keyboard patent?
No, never read it.
Yeah, I had a quick boo over it there. I'll even admit I went over to CrackBerry and had a read of it. I had a look at it, and basically the way I see it is it's just a swipe gesture, but instead of on the screen, it's on the keyboard. That's my quick 30 seconds Cole's Note version of that patent.
That was like 10 seconds, man.
Ah, well, okay, I could spend another 20 just blobbing if you want, but that's how I take it.
So when you say a swipe, you mean something like a swipe to unlock? Like, what is it to do on the phone? It seemed like authentication was kind of the key.
Yeah, to me, it seemed like, you know how a lot of the Android phones has the pattern, right, on the screen? So if you can basically take that and put it anywhere on the keyboard and develop your own pattern. That's how I read through the pattern.
So, Blaze, in your article, when I read it, I was thinking to myself, because we've seen and maybe heard of allusions toward like a fingerprint sensor, be it on the device anywhere or on the keyboard itself. You can imagine, like, if they have a keyboard sensor or something in the keyboard and then go ahead and have that fingerprint sensor allow you to have a second layer of security, you could have, like, your Android swipe to unlock, like Scott just mentioned, and maybe tie that in with, like, a first-time authentication, you know, with the actual fingerprint. I think that might be kind of cool, and it's, like, all right there to unlock your phone.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that BlackBerry mentioned a while back where I think it was maybe Alex Thurber. Maybe it was somebody else. They've sort of switched enough staff around that I got lost in some of the names.
Their plan is working.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the executives mentioned that if they were going to go ahead, and they didn't necessarily believe that fingerprint authentication was exactly, you know, the way to go, because once your fingerprint is out there, once somebody has your fingerprint or something like that, you can't actually go ahead and change it, right? Which is genuinely true. Like, they weren't necessarily dismissing the fact that fingerprints are something that can be authenticated and are secure, but they wanted to basically go ahead and change how the fingerprint sensor actually works and how it actually gets used, because of the fact that, like, if your fingerprint gets out there, you can't change it, right? You're stuck with it for life. But when it comes down to this sort of authentication method, which combines your fingers with the actual authentication method itself, you can change this at any point while it's still using your fingerprints and stuff like that to be able to go ahead and do the actual authentication. You can change the pattern or the process, or, you know, the keys that are actuations that are typed in when you're actually putting in the password. So they basically said that, you know, we don't think that fingerprints are necessarily the 110% way to go. If we're going to go ahead and put a fingerprint scanner in any of our devices, we're going to go ahead and build off of that solution. And, you know, logically putting the pieces together, it looks as though that this is going to be something that they're going to do. Of course, when you look at the situation now and consider the upcoming device that is actually going to be like hitting the market at any point, you know, it sort of goes against that rule, because the DTEK 60 itself has a fingerprint scanner in it. Like, they sort of tossed that philosophy out the window when they agreed to go ahead and put a fingerprint scanner on the DTEK 60. But, you know, that's not a BlackBerry built device, and they didn't build it in-house. So any of these patents that we're looking at now have to be at least looked at towards like the Mercury, or, you know, what may possibly be the final in-house design device for BlackBerry. So I don't know. It's a really interesting play on how a fingerprint scanner works, because, again, as I noted, it doesn't necessarily rule out the traditional integration of how a fingerprint scanner works, but it also adds an additional layer on top of it that could be used, because, again, you know, once your fingerprint is out there, you can't change it. But if it relies on certain gestures or certain swipes that are being implemented, then you can actually go ahead and change those at any given point in time. And it's also, if you take a further look into it, and we're going to get there, we may not necessarily mention it, but on Alex's Pixel, there's new gestures and swipes that have been implemented using the fingerprint sensor as well.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, for example, like Alex, in terms of the Pixel itself, Alex can, the Pixel has something which is called Moves integrated into it, and Alex can basically pull down the notification shade just by swiping his finger down the back. So it's something that obviously BlackBerry is working on and thinking about, but Google is already ahead in that respect as well. So it's not too far out of the realm of possibility to say that Google and BlackBerry are probably working on this in some capacity together to be able to go ahead and implement the integration directly into, the Mercury or whatever comes up. So I don't know, it's really interesting patent, to say the least.
Blaze brings up some good points about the whole fingerprint pattern there. And sorry, guys. My whole concern from day one when fingerprint scanners popped out, and it was like, hey, my biometrics stay with me and my employer, and that is it. And I don't personally know how they're stored on the phone or if they get synced up to the cloud or whatever, but it's something that I've been hesitant from day one on, is using a fingerprint scanner on the phone and then having that getting out and then getting into the wrong hands.
Yeah, no, and I think there's that whole security argument too, where if you're pulled over, then like the police officer or someone, they can tell you to unlock your phone using a fingerprint because it's something that's like accessible, whereas a password that's in your mind, that's like equivalent to like encryption or something. So they can't do that. So a lot of people say, you can get the best of both worlds with that though, because, if you really get pulled over and you're worried about something on your phone or whatever, turn your phone off, and then when it boots back up, it's going to require you to use your fingerprint and do your passcode or whatever. So, so that's like the thing. There are ways around that one main fear. Like that's the one main fear I hear when people talk about, what are the downfalls of using your fingerprint? And yes, it does suck because a password, if it gets stolen, you just change it. And fingerprint, you can't really do that very easily. I'm sure you can do it, but it would hurt, or I don't really know. But but
with a laser changing your fingerprints.
Yeah.
But it's
not possible there, dude.
And I think that's the thing, the convenience of it, because I'm someone that went from never using one and also like, whatever. And it's so much easier to get another device that doesn't have a fingerprint sensor when you've never had one that has it. Now the simple thing like of me unlocking LastPass, because I have all my passwords encrypted and stored there, then just using my fingerprint to unlock that versus putting in a pin every single time, it saves me like really 3 or 4 seconds each time every time I do it, and I might do it 10 times over the course of a day or something, and that starts adding up just of a simple little convenience. So it'll be tough to go away from that.
I'm kind of just proud of BlackBerry at this moment because it seems like
most innovative thing.
Innovation's one thing, and I want to talk about that later because it's definitely an interesting, like, longer conversation. But I'm just proud that BlackBerry is kind of coming around the fingerprint sensor in like a meaningful way. They're not just like with the DTEC 60, right? Blaze mentioned it'll have a traditional fingerprint sensor. So with that in mind, actually pushing the envelope and what they can actually offer in terms of security, it's going to be tough. Like if I get pulled over, you ask me for my fingerprint, I'm like, okay, and then this keyboard's going to stop the rest of that interaction. Definitely kind of an interesting point there. So Alex, you're on a Priv, you're on AT&T. Are you kind of upset that unlocked AT&T Privs are basically unlocked Privs?
Yeah.
How do you feel about your decision to pick up a BlackBerry device from your carrier, and how do you think that parlays into like future devices ever seeing the light of a carrier shelf?
I don't think I'm ever going to buy another device through a carrier ever. Like it's so out of the question because I've obviously gotten screwed over in the past from it. But now with this whole thing going on with AT&T, and I called them up and I argued on my aunt's behalf to try and get some type of refund or something because her phone hasn't been working service-wise very well for the past 3 weeks, and the most they would do is $25. Wasted like 3 hours of my time. She's wasted like 5 hours. She's gonna try and do like a lawsuit against. Like it's just ridiculous, and it's all because of like the BlackBerry Priv. and AT&T. And
What do you-
yeah,
I wonder what happened to cause this type of error,
so
you know?
and that's the thing. Like I've heard things, for instance, that AT&T pushed out a major LTE update, and obviously they tested things like the iPhone and Samsung devices and things like that, but they never actually tested the SoC that's on the Priv, and the Priv is obviously a modified um, SoC that has security built into it. Maybe there's some type of conflict with it. I don't really know. AT&T, when you talk to them, they're like, it's not our fault whatsoever. BlackBerry, I don't know. They just kind of say, I don't. They're trying to figure out what it is that went wrong, and it seems like neither of
BlackBerry
them
doesn't
know.
say anything, man, because they
Yeah,
just put stuff in the knowledge base and that's it.
yeah. So I don't really know. And like my aunt just sent me an email from BlackBerry. Like her case got pushed up higher support within BlackBerry. She just got an email that said like, we're now closing your case because we're all aware of this problem and it's been pushed to the highest tier and we're working to fix it. So that's reason enough for us to close the case. But it still hasn't been fixed. So now her case is closed. And it's like I don't even really know, but the frustration I see it. Even my mom is complaining now. My stepdad, like, everyone's now complaining to me. Everyone who has a Priv is specifically coming after me now because I pushed them to get a Priv. So
And Alex is like, screw yo, I'm on a
and
Pixel, yo.
and my mom is not
And now
happy.
Alex is like the best phone salesman for small business because he can sell you on anything short term, right? He'll get you on a Priv on Tuesday in April, and by October you're rocking the latest Nexus and the latest Pixel.
Yeah.
It's funny, Alex, because I think the conversation around the carriers, whether we keep them or hate them, is interesting. If we look to years to come, it seems like Priv is like an isolated incident, but I think there's a larger sentiment around that
Oh, yeah.
carrier kind of
Yes.
chain relationship. So as we move away from that, I think BlackBerry's kind of already positioned to play in the market that will be, which is like that online direct to consumer base. So it's still tough out there, right? I found it very interesting in kind of a comparison that BlackBerry's got a New York shop, but their Soho Pixel shop doesn't actually sell phones. It actually just directs you to buy them online, which is more or less what the BlackBerry kiosk does over there at Brookfield Place, which we just showed a little tour of. So it's all interesting how the real future of these go-to-market strategies are going to be. I just want more advertising. And as we said that last week and the week before, advertising. They actually did some advertising. Scott, how did you take this ad campaign that BlackBerry did through various channels, including the Wall Street Journal?
Grain of salt, I guess. Yeah, its advertising is great, but at the same time, one or a couple printed ads here and there aren't going to do change anything, right? They need to continually keep it going. And the question is, does BlackBerry have the money in the bank to keep doing that type of advertising and marketing campaign? That will be the biggest question that will get answered down the line, right? So I was a bit surprised, but then at the same time, we've seen little things like this in the past that pop up and then they go away to the wayside. So that'll be another question to see if it sticks around for a while or not.
It's just interesting. It really is. It's almost like they're doing like sporadic marketing, like kind of sprinkling salt over their wounds in terms of the marketing. But
yeah, exactly.
The last time we saw them like really market, I'd say, was when Brookfield Place actually launched and they took over like Times Square with a couple billboards and things like that. But again, a little bit here, a little bit here. They're putting the money as smartly as they can. They're really not doing any spending whatsoever.
They had a pretty large campaign up here north of the border when the Priv launched as well, especially in the ACC, the Air Canada Centre, with the Raptors and stuff like that. But you're right, it's just a little bit here, a little bit there. And unfortunately, that type of marketing, you need a continuous or the impact goes away, right? To me, BlackBerry needs to decide what is their main target. Is it continuing to be businesses and stuff like that, or do they want to hit the consumers? Because that's two completely different strategies within the marketing campaigns. And
the ad we saw actually is a great point to bring up. The ad we saw didn't even have any talk of smartphones whatsoever. It was all like software. So it's almost like they've taken a stance on that kind of forking road they have to go past, It
was almost like an open letter, like, hey guys, this is what we're about now, and made it into an ad, so to speak, right?
Yeah. It'll see some eyes. I think it has potential as more catalog marketing, if that makes sense, where if you want to look back on the blogs and see what a company's been up to when you're actually interested, you actually have some kind of like line of credit, so to speak, to reference what they're doing. I'm happy to see it. I don't feel it, if that makes sense. Like I don't feel affected by it. Even Alex in New York doesn't feel affected by it per se. But something's always better than nothing. And I think it does reaffirm kind of the messaging around where they want to go. Blaze, were you happy you got to post about marketing? Or is it almost like a kind of an ironic situation when we're posting about it and it's still not enough?
I think it would be more ironic if it was actually a device ad. Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, I appreciate that the ad is out there. I appreciate the fact that they're trying to go ahead and get the actual message out rather than, letting basically the blogs and the news outlets control the message behind what they're actually trying to deliver. So, I mean, yeah, it's great to see the ad. It's great to see them go ahead and deliver that message. It's, obviously something that we've been harping on for a long period of time is to be able to go ahead and get your messaging right, get it out and get it delivered to the people. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I agree with Scott. There's no consistency in terms of the advertising that they have or have had for the past few years, right? They just seem a little bit willy-nilly when it comes to who they're actually targeting. And that's been something that has been discussed many times throughout all of the podcasts that we've done, is that their marketing messaging is totally out of whack and out of sync. And, I'm considering the announcements that they have made recently in terms of the hardware and, we're a software company now. I'm hoping that they continue with the proper messaging and don't sort of revert back to the mixed messaging. It's basically, stick with one message, deliver that message to the people where you feel as though that it's going to do you the best, and just continue with that. Keep pushing out that messaging, letting people know exactly where you stand, where you are as a company, and what you're standing for, right? And it goes back again to that consistency thing. If they let this essentially fall off after like a 2-week period or a 3-week period or something like that, it's not going to stick. People aren't going to keep it in their minds. They're going to, whatever their next move is, they're going to need to go ahead and continue with that messaging. If they're doing something that is, awesome in terms of the software play, then they need to take out ads for that, like further down the road. There needs to be consistent messaging going out, even if it doesn't necessarily target you or I or Scott or Alex or whatever, right? As long as it is reaching the people that they want it to reach, then that's important for them to do. But, it's good to see them go ahead. I was glad to write about it. And, it's good to see them actually pushing their message rather than letting other people control it. Because, as I noted in the post, only so many people are actually visiting the BlackBerry blog. Like, you could put up a CEO post from John Chen and basically saying that the world is ending tomorrow, and that doesn't necessarily mean that anybody's going to read it because it's strictly on the BlackBerry blog. Like, how many users actually know that BlackBerry even has a blog if you're not necessarily within the BlackBerry ecosystem to be able to go ahead and spread that message, right? Like, nobody knows about the blog. So unless you're actually deeply involved with it, you gotta be able to go ahead and take your message to the people. Don't expect the people to come to you and read your message.
And here's one potential problem with, I totally agree with everything Blaze said. And one potential problem we might see now, maybe, hopefully this coming week, is that we keep hearing that the DTEC 60's launch was postponed because they're planning on potentially doing some marketing for it. And just like you said, Blaze, here we are, we changed the software, and then next week maybe they're going ahead and say, hey, look at our new phone right here, guys.
Yeah.
And the customers are like, what the hell? You just told me last week you're a software company, and now you got a brand new phone? Like, what's going on? I don't understand. Mm-hmm. Is this the last phone that BlackBerry will make now? Why would I want to buy the last phone of BlackBerry?
I honestly feel every phone BlackBerry makes may be its last.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the last 2 years. So, like, I'm keeping that mentality, and I think maybe BlackBerry should too. Keep people on the line. You never know. What you contribute toward now in terms of, like, what you're paying helps BlackBerry fund that next endeavor.
I think that segment was probably the loudest when the Passport launched. It was so controversial.
Yeah.
And with Passport, we got 10.3, we got Blend, we had an update to BlackBerry, made it like kind of holistic, and we had all these things, right? And we kind of were like at the pinnacle at that point with BB10, and now we're looking at Blend went EOL. Link kind of doesn't work well in the way it should.
Doesn't work well at all.
Yeah, if it works, it doesn't work well. Let's to put it that way, right? And then we have BB10, which is kind of waiting on an update, maybe to get more security through NIAP certification. It's just kind of interesting. The shift to Android rather has kind of been a silent one, and BB10 notwithstanding, I think this is the approach they got to take. But they kind of need to do this type of marketing like what they've done with Wall Street Journal, because it says, hey, we're not dead. Don't assume we're dead. And that's kind of right now the kind of transitional conversation they have to have with a lot of people out there. It's like, we're still around. We're going to show you what we do later. But right now, just know we're not dead. We stopped phones, but we're software now.
Here's an interesting fact. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's an interesting fact just to note that just popped into my head. When you go to Shop BlackBerry, especially on the US website, they almost have as many Android phones as they have as BlackBerry 10 phones. So keep that in mind. It's like on the Shop BlackBerry website, you have the DTEC 50, you have Priv, you have BlackBerry Passport, Classic, and Leap, right? So when they announce the DTEC 60, they're going to have three Android phones. They're going to have three BlackBerry 10 phones. So they have almost the exact same amount. Just consider it basically shows where like their future is at this point.
Why are BlackBerry Leaps still laying around? Why did you buy this inventory, BlackBerry? What in the world?
It's a good question because on Shop BlackBerry Canada, if you go to the Canadian website, there's literally like, if you go to Shop BlackBerry Canada, there's the DTEC 50, there's the Priv, there's the BlackBerry Passport, and there is the BlackBerry Leap. Like, you can't buy the BlackBerry Classic on Shop BlackBerry Canada anymore. They removed it. It's gone. The stock is gone.
So now my thing is, if I break my work phone, am I going to get a Leap or a Passport?
Right.
No, that's not an actual conversation you have with your. The answer is Passport.
Well, I'm not in control of that destiny, so I get what they give me.
Yeah.
You need to give a nudge.
Probably getting a Leap.
Probably, man. I do work for the government, right?
You better get a DTEC 50. I think that's a good replacement. Nothing's really going to beat a Classic till we see that Mercury, and we saw Geekbench specs actually kind of come to light, showing off the BBB100-1 or BB.
Yeah, BBB.
Yeah, this makes sense. Simple, straightforward. It's just a nomenclature, but at the end of the day, I find that those Geekbench specs are kind of weird. Not in terms of the actual spec, but trying to place what kind of device this is. Is it a mid-range? Is it a high-end?
Yeah.
Kind of getting, we're going to have an innovative keyboard, but, the 625 chip, and it's just very kind of hard to place.
RAM.
Yeah. In Classic, it was kind of in that same place. Like, Classic held its value. Like, Shop BlackBerry has the Classic US still for like $300 or something like that, $350. Like, I don't understand how that's even a thing, but if that price, it holds at $379 actually. Shop BlackBerry US $379 per
though.
Yeah, it's just kind of nuts. So that you can get a DTEC 50 for cheaper than you can get a Classic. And is it all in that keyboard? And if so, what kind of premium will we pay for the Mercury keyboard in terms of what we actually get, like full out on a device?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting how they price it, especially like when you look at the Android pricing, right? And the specs and the scheme. That's a really good point, James, because the Classic pricing hasn't budged very much in comparison to like the Passport and like the Priv. Because there has been discounts on the Passport and the Priv, right?
Oh, well, actually, as I'm looking at this, Blaze, it says notify me when back in stock.
Yeah. That is proof that it's coming back in stock.
They probably, it's funny because it's like a questionnaire, so it's like I wonder if they get like a couple of these, like 100, they might like order
I don't even think it's necessarily like ordering. It's more probably along the lines of like, where do we move the stock from? Because if you go to like the UK site, right, the UK site still has classics available in white and actually cobalt blue.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's like a rarity on this side of the planet.
Right. So they could essentially move some stock around within like, the warehouses, but no matter how you look at it, it's interesting that they're basically running out of stock right now. Like you can do stock checks on there, and the passports are running low within Canada, but there still seems to be plenty within the U.S.
So my prediction is that within a week of this podcast airing, Shop BlackBerry sales are going to go way up. You're going to start stockpiling on these things.
That's what I was about to say. All the hardcore BB10 guys out there start buying up right now.
Yeah, that's ultimately what I was trying to eventually get at as well. Is like if you want a BlackBerry 10 device, like don't sit around and wait on it, because chances are that you're not going to be able to get one from Shop BlackBerry, and Shop BlackBerry is like the only place that's going to offer you at least still like any sort of warranty scheme or anything like that for it. I mean, you can buy them on eBay for like $179, but you're not getting any sort of warranty or anything with that. So
90-day refurb warranty.
Yeah, exactly.
We put the stickers back on and placed it in somewhat of a box. Here you go.
So I want to transition here, guys. I want to move to some of our patron questions as they pay our bills for us. So I did a fatal flaw when posting this patron post, because I mentioned at the end, and Alex replaced his Priv with a Google Pixel, and that like derailed all the conversation. But there's still some goodness over in the questions that I wanted to run through. Waldo22 asks, most reviews. Yeah, we found Waldo's here like a dancing like GIF emoji thing. It's pretty awesome. But anyway, hey Alex, most reviews give the Pixel a 6 to 7 out of 10. They love the software, particularly the camera, particularly the stability mode. Most say the phone is butt ugly. Do you think that BlackBerry could add some of the new features like stability mode for their camera? Like, do you think we're going to start seeing maybe BlackBerry adapt and other OEMs maybe adopt some of the things that are coming out in this Pixel?
I think that's tough because, yes, like BlackBerry's a software company, but Google is like the king of software companies right now. And right now the stability mode, so what it does is like 200 times a second, it will like crop the video and fix it. So if you're kind of going up and down like that, it will crop and do the reverse of it using the internal gyroscope, and 200 times a second it does something along the lines with that. But it's not just the software, it utilizes the hardware to work hand in hand with that. So I think it's kind of a long shot for BlackBerry just to go ahead and do that. I don't think it's like impossible, but it's one of the things that I think that's what makes Google, because they have the resources and the kind of technology to do that. As for the phone being butt ugly, I mean, I don't really think it looks bad if you
that case is butt ugly.
I mean, it feels really nice and it looks fine. I don't have any qualms with it, and the more that I have it, like
it kind of looks like an HTC.
It does. I mean, it is, right? But the one weird thing is, so it's thicker on the top than it is on the bottom. So it's thicker on this side than it is here. And in person, you kind of feel it a tiny bit, but it's very subtle and it's weird. But I don't know. I have no problems with it. And it
looks like an upside down iPhone 1. Okay. Moving on. Rico asks a question. As we start to see a shift in outsourced BBM operations, were small indicators like sticker packs only being made available for Android and iOS a sign of the changing times? How do you feel about that, Scott? And as well, kind of the larger question around, BBM notifying people of phishing as well. Like, how do you feel about kind of the future of BBM? And are times changing, especially with the Amnesty International report talking about some of the security around it? Do you think that's kind of just fodder, or do you think it's something BBM should address in some type of way?
Well, first off, with the sticker packs, I think it is just a shift of the times, showing the times as the users on the BB10 side go down. the resources is just going to shift to focus on both iOS and Android. And I would say probably predominantly Android. I don't know a crap ton of people using BBM on the iOS side. The phishing thing, I thought it was kind of neat, actually. People are out there to rip you apart for whatever you have, and BBM is just another platform for people to do that. So for the company to go ahead and fire out this this notification saying, hey, we would only ask for your password at these certain specific times, I think it's pretty good. Now, people just have to be wary that the phishers don't turn around and use that for their advantage and try to mock something up. But it's just a matter of people got to be wary all the time. Like every day I get emails from the banks, right? And PayPal has been another one as of late that they've gotten really good with forging the emails and make it look like completely legit. So just gotta be wary, double check everything before you start looking into things that when people say, hey, you owe money or there's something wrong with your account or whatever, right?
Yeah, like instead of clicking the link that's in the email, just go to the website directly.
Well, I always double check the email address because they can go ahead and you can put the name they can mask the name of the email address, but if you check the actual email address, it'll always pop up as junk. You'll see like the junk email address pop up.
Yeah, but realistically, just like if people are smart and like don't like never trust email, if it says like click here to finish this transaction through PayPal or like whatever, go to PayPal directly, and if they say that there's a transaction or something, then do it there. Don't but.
One of the big ones is the Canadian Revenue Agency up here on the northern border, and that one's going on forever. And I even got to pass it on to work to my people. Is like, CRA will not email you telling you that you owe money. No. They will not phone you up like that. They will send a official letter, guys. Right? So it's just the way things are, and it's just the matter. It actually surprised me that it's taken this long for the phishers to get through it on BBM. And then regarding that article,
or they do it all the time. It comes up like every 6 months or so.
Yeah.
It just happens that BlackBerry decided to go ahead and put a notification out this time.
Yeah.
That's responsible of them, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, no matter how much security you have, you're still, the weakest link in the actual security chain is the end user. So, like Scott said and Alex said, don't go clicking on random things that come in your email, especially, when they're coming from Nigerian princes promising to send you $10 million through your PayPal account, right?
Oh man, guys, I gotta go then if that's the case.
I guess
I gotta make some calls.
But I get those emails, like Scott said, all the time. They mainly Google does a good job of filtering them and pushing them to the spam. But
definitely,
every now and then one or two will essentially get through, and I actually do have to double check it because I do have a PayPal account, right, and I do have an Apple account. So, you can usually tell by some of the language that is used in there, words that are misspelled. But if you hover over links, one rule of thumb that I basically live by in terms of spam emails and people phishing and stuff like that. And granted, it's not always necessarily the easiest thing to do because there's times when emails come in and you just click on them randomly. But don't check anything when it comes down to it, like financials or anything like that on your phone. Like that's just common sense, right? Because you can't really decipher where those email addresses are coming from or where those web links will essentially take you. Wait until you get back to a computer so that you can hover over the links and find out where they're actually taking you. Mm-hmm. That's just something that I've always done. Is just wait until you get back to a computer so that you can further investigate it, especially if you think that something doesn't necessarily seem to fit in common sense. Right?
Chris, I mean, to that though, a lot of people that I know now, like they just have a tablet and a phone, and a tablet's not really much better anyway. Like, especially if you have an iPad or something, it's really identical to just having an iPhone anyway. So it is tough to do that. But realistically, if you do click on a link, just look at the URL. And I mean, some people, I mean, if you're on your bank's website, you should have an idea of what that is. So is it, northwest.com, or is it hsbc.com? So then if you click a link and it's like hsbcbankscam.com, like, don't put any shit in there. Like, I mean, that's another kind of thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's tricky if you don't have a computer and stuff like that. But, there's also tools that can help you. Like, if you see a short URL, like a bit.ly link or something like that, there are websites out there that will basically tell you what is actually behind that bit.ly link without you actually visiting it.
Yeah.
I think it's Unfurl or something like that. It will basically expand the link so that you can see what's behind it.
I'm just shocked that Blaze has an Apple account. What the hell?
Well, I have a MacBook, I have an iPhone, I have all kinds of shit.
Blaze has a lot of things that you wouldn't expect him to have. That came out more saucy. Yeah, that came out more saucy than I would have liked. But so we have things to look forward to. We've got DTEK 60 coming down the pipe. We have Android Nougat being tested on this Geekbench Merc device. Find it kind of interesting. Do you think maybe we're all going to get Nougat for all of our Android phones around that time, or is it going to be like a staggered, fragmented mess? And
I think they're using it as a sales technique, which is what I hate. I mean, like, even the Pixel, they use it as kind of a sales technique. Like, it's the first phone with 7.1 or whatever, but then they pushed out 7.0. And it's like, I feel like BlackBerry is like, this next phone is going to be the first BlackBerry that is 7.0, and it's going to be that way for like 2 months. Like, they're going to try and use it as, now you can do multitasking, so you should buy this phone so you can get multitasking, rather than the Priv is updated, you can get multitasking on the Priv. I just feel like they're going to do that. It's just too tempting.
Yeah.
Productivity with the physical keyboard and the multitasking from Nougat.
Yeah. That's nothing new either. I mean, that's standard operating procedure pretty much across the board.
Verizon is still on lollipop, guys.
I mean,
right?
When you wanted 10.3.1, what did you have to do? You had to buy a passport at that point, and then they rolled it out eventually, right?
But now that they're in the Android space, I don't think they can be this way. Like, when you own the OS and you kind of do this, so the thing is, they're the only ones with BlackBerry 10. So, whereas now they're competing with, there's already tons of phones that have Android 7.0 out, so you can't be doing that. It's just, I just don't.
At the end of the day, Alex, like, Apple owns iOS, Google owns Android and Alphabet and all that. But at the end of the day, it is Android, but they are modifying it too. So they have to take some time to do their little security tweaks, or even just a run through. It may just take time to just analyze what's there, So I think, as Blaze mentioned, it's kind of something we've seen. Marshmallow's still hanging out there for some devices. I'm sure not everybody's on it. But it's definitely more of a crying shame that we're seeing the kind of winding down of BB10. That's really what's kind of more disheartening. I would have liked to see a little update of like some NIAP any day now, right? Like, or at least to like, at this point it's so delayed, you need to tell me when it's coming. Like, you need to speak to me about this delay, because right now it just shows like you don't care, and that sends a louder message, I think, in terms of your support, especially to those customers who are in key industries who need those devices to work. They can't afford them, bugging out on them through the workday and whatnot. Definitely kind of an interesting conversation that we had today, gentlemen. Are you guys excited about anything else in particular? Aside for, obviously, after show, we're going to talk a little bit about Pixel and innovations and some other things BlackBerry related. Do you guys have anything else you want to close with?
No, I just want to sort of reach back to the comment about like BBM and BBM stickers and stuff like that. I mean, if there was any sort of sign that BlackBerry, like you just mentioned, that BlackBerry sort of swaying away from the BlackBerry 10 side of things, I mean, and in terms of respect to where BBM is going, all you need to do is look at the BBM Twitter account and look at the content that they're actually pushing out. Like, one of their recent tweets that pushed out was like, you can download BBM on your Android and iOS phone. There's not even a single mention of BlackBerry 10 on there. So it just like, it speaks to where BlackBerry 10 is in the process. And I don't know, man. I took a lot of crap last week, or essentially this past week, for stuff that I said in terms about BlackBerry 10. But that's the reality of the situation. Like, BlackBerry is slowly moving away from BlackBerry 10, and if you can't see that, then you gotta take a harder look at the things that are out there, man. Like, I know everything that they said recently. Like, yeah, we'll have deals for BlackBerry 10 licensed devices and stuff like that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a BlackBerry 10 device that you want to purchase
or can purchase.
Yeah, or can purchase. It doesn't necessarily mean that, like, it doesn't even mean that it will be loaded into a smartphone. It could be pretty much anything at this point, especially with the QNX background that is there. I mean, it very well could end up like a licensing deal like WebOS has, where they have the LG WebOS TVs. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a smartphone, and people who are using BlackBerry 10 and continuing to use BlackBerry 10, like I've been saying for months, use BlackBerry 10 for what it is now. Use it, love it, appreciate it. If you don't want to switch, that's perfectly fine, but at least take the time to recognize the fact that BlackBerry themselves are slowly moving away from BlackBerry 10, and just deal with it.
It's getting cold out there, man. It's getting cold. And BlackBerry 10 was like a patchwork blanket, right? But then they went to Android because Android's much warmer. That's all it is. It's all just weather. And as the cycles go through, I think honestly people are going to move away and adopt what is to come. I mean, I think even when we look at Alex and what he's doing, moving away from a Priv and going to that pure Google experience, I think that's kind of what BlackBerry wants you to do to a degree. Go out there and explore what is available, and then maybe come back in the future, because devices like DTEK 60 are going to be looking more and more compelling for people, especially those on a Z10 or a Z30, even a Leap. It's definitely, I think, something BlackBerry kind of wants to happen.
Yeah.
They need people to start embracing Android in a larger sense, especially some of those diehards. But
yeah,
I'm gonna leave my BB10 hooked up to a TV and pretend it's an LG TV. HDMI out for the win. Alex, let's wrap it up, man. Let's jump on this after show. I really need to pry into your
I think
Pixel personal
there's a
life.
bit that's interesting we can talk about. So instead of saying it here, let's just talk about it there.
Word on roll. I have a lot of people who often ask me, like, what is Patreon? Go check it out. It definitely pays the bills for us here. That's how we're able to answer our key patron questions as well, and it's kind of a direct way for us to dialogue, and a very holistic kind of a support system for us. So definitely go check that out. Alex will put the link in the chat probably for you guys who are chatting along with us. But definitely this after show is going to be lit, guys, because Alex is going to get reamed.
I'm prepared. I'm ready for it.
Can't believe you
3 against 1.
left. Yeah, just can't believe you left the BlackBerry fam. That's ridiculous.
I'm still here.
But really, has he though? Like, if he's got BBM on there, and if he's gone ahead and got hub services,
if I'm the only one he's talking to on BBM, like, what's the point? He just keeps it around for me. He's like, oh.
But if he's spending that $1 a month to get rid of those ads, then it's even better.
That's a great point. As long as he's doing that.
As long as he's spending the money on the ad to get rid of the ads and for both BBM and hub services, BlackBerry's laughing. They're like, woohoo!
This is true.
We got him one way or another.
This is actually true. All right. Well, we will talk about it after. So, good show. Talk to you guys in a little bit. Peace out.
Make sure it's unlisted.
Yep.
Yeah. Yo, so Pixel. How much did you pay for it, Alex? What kind of device did you get?
I got the most expensive XL model. It was
Okay, it was the XL.
You get the XL. Okay, you went 5.5 inches.
Yeah, so it came out to I think 800.
Can you hold it up next to your Priv?
Yeah.
Can I see a comparison of the two devices?
So the Priv is wider.
Okay.
By a tiny, tiny bit. So essentially, when I have it on a case, when I have a case on it, they're about the same.
Alex, if there's a way you can configure the screen so that
I'm just full screen.
You're like the fullest area, that would be nice.
That's a good call. Let me just do that really quick. Duplicate.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have you set up for my own viewing purposes, so let's share it with the others.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm here.
So Anil asked, "What's up with the Mexican stash?" Or no, he asked, "Well, who's the Mexican impersonating Alex?" That's what was the question. He said in our BerryFlow group. I tend to agree, Alex.
Here.
Huh.
I get it.
They're simpler profiled. That's
They
kind of
are.
interesting.
Okay, so here, let me.
So it looks like it's a touch taller,
It is.
but not
Yeah.
that much.
So that's about how much taller it is, a tiny bit. But
Yeah.
you
Oh,
can
that
see
bezel.
you can see who wins
Bezel.
here. No.
Yeah.
Let's do it from.
You're getting your phone.
I'm gonna try and hold it behind it, so you won't even see the profile here. So like the priv is a little bit wider. You don't like.
Yeah.
So I'll put it in front.
So
Yeah,
it's
I
like
see.
about an inch taller and like half an inch wider.
An inch taller?
No way, man.
Dude,
That's
it's
like 3 centimeters taller.
that's yeah,
if that.
that's a
That's like a
Yeah.
centimeter.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, there we go.
and then from thickness.
Places in the metric system. Sorry, guys.
Oh man, I totally forgot.
Canadian, don't blame me.
So the priv is a tiny bit. This is really friggin' tough to even show.
Difficult.
There. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
a tiny bit taller, but if you go to this side, which is even thinner, then see it's
That's-
quite a bit thinner.
Does it feel top heavy? The Pixel?
Um,
Which feels more
No,
balanced in the hand? The Priv slid out open like typing or Pixel?
the priv's a lot heavier. Like this.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
true.
heavier in general. Let's see.
But that they have about the same size battery, right?
Yeah. So. Okay, one thing I do want to say, the Pixel, it's slippery. Like this, I don't know if I would use it without a case simply because it's
They're
I
gonna
would
have
probably
Nex-
drop
they're
it.
gonna have like those Nexus custom covers, right?
Yeah, they do. But like, so the thing is with this, like the texture that's on the Priv, I use this without a case whatsoever for a year, and I never had any problems with it. This sketches me out because it almost feels like glass. It's not very like, I don't know, like I feel like it can fall. So I have it just in. It's just like a a bendy case or whatever. And this is the first time I'm actually using a case on a phone, and I'm okay with it simply because like I can do like it's not gonna fall now. Whereas if I did that without that on, it would just fall right off. And I know it's such a
Alex,
stupid
you
test
need to
when
wash
people
your
do
hands,
that.
bro.
No. But yeah, so I think
Sweaty palms.
you guys are
He's
stressing me
clammy.
out, man.
Right.
But so like one of the things that I do really like is the fingerprint to unlock, because like that's something that I've never had in the past, and I know that we've talked about it where chances are it's not a big deal unless you've used it. Oh my god, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife's got it with her G5.
No,
and she
no,
loves it.
guys.
hasn't
we
been-
got we gotta start the Upstream. We gotta end it and then start now.
Pause. Rewind.
I just realized that I had the Patreon screen on the entire time. No one saw any of that.
What do you mean? Any of the podcast?
No, just the after show. Like I was holding up the phones and shit. No one saw any of that. You guys are the only ones that saw that.
We saw it.
Yeah, that's all that is. That's all that.
I'm stopping the stream and I'm starting back up.
God.
And we got to delete that one. All right, so we kind of just had a big mix-up problem there. So let's just run through this real quick. So dimension-wise, between the Pixel and the
gee.
Priv, let's see if I should be better at this now.
Y'all gonna get the feeling of deja vu or
The
no?
stream's live, right? The stream's live?
Yes. The
Okay.
Priv is
Turn your Pixel screen on. I don't want to like see this creepy Inception where your face is reflecting off the Pixel screen.
it's still doing it, man. Oh no.
No, I'm just messing, dude.
So essentially, the Priv is a tiny bit wider. So that's about how much it stands out. You can kind of see it a tiny bit standing out on the side there. Height-wise, the Pixel is just a tiny bit. You guys don't have any reactions now because we just kind of screwed all this up. So we're just duplicating this now.
I would like for patron clarity. Alex screwed it up. We were
This is true.
participating. Yeah. We were engaged.
We were actually interested the first time.
It looks clean, man. It looks clean. You know what I find kind of interesting?
What?
Can you show me the bottom of the pixel?
The bottom of the pixel.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Hold on.
Interesting. Hold on, let me check something real quick.
The bottom of the pixel. Oh, the you mean like
I want to see the back of it and like the bottom end. So the antenna band goes across the middle, in the back. Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
Whereas that is what? So if you slide this up, then it's here on the Priv.
I'm
Oh,
seeing it.
sorry. So essentially, this is glass because for the antenna to get out, and plus they have little antenna bends here and everything. But I'm getting 4 bars. Let's see. So I'm getting full 5 bars of AT&T LTE on this right now. Like this has really good reception and service. I haven't had any problems. Like GPS. So I drove to the FedEx store and I literally popped my SIM card in when I was waiting there in my car, and I used this to drive me home. The GPS immediately was better than the Priv. The Priv, I'm sure many people who are watching that have the Priv, the GPS on the Priv isn't great. I don't know why or what, but like if you're turning your phone in Google Maps or whatever you're using, it doesn't know at all. Whereas this, like as I was turning onto a road, so essentially it was in my car like that, and it was slowly turning like that. The GPS was actually slowly tilting within Google Maps to turn onto the road.
Mhm.
Whereas the Priv, it was just kind of like, okay, oh, now you're changed like that direction. My buddy's is like backwards when he's going, but um, so it's
Show me the bottom of the phone, Alex. I want to see like the USB. Is it a USB Type
oh,
C port? I want to
yep,
see.
USB Type C. Sorry, it would be nice to try and get some
Or
type of.
turn it. Like, let me start seeing the back again. So in the bottom, is it like 2 speakers or are there like little micro grills inside? Just 2 cuts?
There's like little grills inside of them.
Mm.
The bottom left, this is a speaker. The bottom right is not a speaker. So I'll actually play a tiny bit of music real quick, just to kind of show that because it throws you
Is
off.
it a chamfered or a rounded edge?
It's so like in what regard? Like going to the
On the
back,
corners, on the corners.
it's rounded. I mean, it's pretty much just like a straight like round. It feels like it's just fully rounded.
It's just interesting because like when you look at that like weird ass render thing that we saw of the Mercury, the antenna lines are in the same place, the speaker holes are all in the same place. It's just I know design is ubiquitous these days, but it's like that thing could be anything, in terms of a reference type design, even if it's like manufactured, and designed by BlackBerry. I mean, they could be pulling a lot of design aspirations from different places. 4.5-inch screen on that Mercury, kind of crazy. I wonder, like, with the keyboard on there, like, what's going to be taller, like an XL or something like that. Definitely weird, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
The Mercury is definitely gonna be an interesting looking device when it pops.
It could be big. Like, it's like going to be Priv big, I think.
But
it's not a little big.
Like Priv open big.
Hopefully not that.
No, I think
chop off like maybe a little bit, but
no. But so that's the thing, right? So like even say that it's like okay, so this is fully slid up. Let's say like halfway slid up. They might be able because the screen's gonna be smaller, right? So now hold it next to something like this. This is already a tiny bit taller. I mean, okay, so if it's like that much, it's not that big of a deal. I felt like this was gonna feel so tall versus the Priv because it is a little bit taller, and you get used to it so quickly. The one thing though is like the Priv definitely feels like the materials don't feel as nice as this, but at the same time, I feel like I need to put a case on this thing because if I drop this, I feel like it's gonna like shatter. Whereas this, like, it's strong, but like I don't know, like having glass here and aluminum, like I don't trust this, and it's just slippier or more slippy.
How's nougat?
Nougat, I'm okay. So this is something that I love. So the dual screen kind of thing here, which is really nice. So you can run 2 apps at once. This I'm actually gonna show you a use case that I use it for because
damn, it loads so fast.
It's everything. It's so smooth. So let me actually close both of these.
Oh my gosh.
So there's okay. So
He
let's
just closed like 5 apps in the matter of 5 seconds.
So there's Google Maps and it opens up real quickly, and then I'll go and hold this down to open up the dual kind of thing there, and I'll open up so like Google Play Music. So here's a use case that I would use it for. So I'm already booted in here, and I could be playing a song. I could then change the size to make the map so it's bigger, it takes up more of the space. How about let's switch this out with BBM, for instance, and I'll jump into conversation with James. So I'll hold this down, and so it says app doesn't support split screen. So that doesn't really matter if I'm in Google Maps, I can still get that app to work. So okay, it says it doesn't support. I was just in it. Some apps don't support split screen, but
Way to
sometimes.
go, BlackBerry! You ruined his.
Okay, it's. I just had
Come on, BBM.
I freaking know it, man.
That's funny.
Can't wait for Hub to get on iOS.
So I'll open up. Okay, so here's one. So if I'm in a conversation with like my buddy here, so the one thing is, so like I can have it small, be GPS, whatever, and I can open up there. I can type a response really quick, send it, and go back to the keyboard going down, and you still get this nice kind of. Do I have orientation?
Why didn't you use the moves, you fucking noob?
Oh, that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks nice. You can imagine as like Andromeda and other things come about, like this kind of all starts making sense.
The thing that I like the most with this though, that I'm using a lot, is quick switching. So
yes,
that
is what I
like. Look how when it's I'm missing it because I can't even see. Wait, I'm on the reverse. Okay, so double tap. Like it's so quick to just like go back and forth, and that's something that I'm using a lot. The little assistant pop up there. It feels more natural because like in BlackBerry or whatever, when you do click it, it's up here. So you tap in it, and it starts listening up there. It's kind of nice just having it come in from the bottom to pop up really quick, and you could ask it a question, and it works well. It's nice, and I'm enjoying it. Simply the speed. So the one main thing is if you go over and see the data or the memory. So right here, memory. It's right now average has used 2.8 gigabytes of RAM. So, and that's one of the biggest things. That the Priv has 3 gigabytes of RAM. So I've been using on average 2.8 gigabytes. So on the Priv, that's running into tons of problems. Whereas this is 4 gigabytes, so 2.8. I still have another gigabyte laying around that can screw around with stuff. So I haven't gotten any slowdown. Someone explained it the best way. Whereas, like, the average person using this phone, they may not notice a difference, aside from, like, yeah, it's quick, but maybe you can get a OnePlus 3 or something that's quicker, too, or something. But the point is, when you're in crunch time, like, I was at a party last night for a friend, and I had to show him a video that I recorded. And if I was on my Priv and pulled out my phone and went to do a video, like, I know I would stumble around. Of course, the video app would not load. Like, just something would happen. And when you're, like, waiting on someone to show someone something, it's like, shit, like, work. Why are you not working? Like, this is so stupid. That's what happens with the Priv. It was so natural and ran into no problems. The app opened up immediately. I didn't have to worry about it, and it just worked. And that's kind of what iPhone users are used to. It just works. You don't have to worry about like crunch time for it to work. And one other little cool thing is the recording. So slow motion. This is kind of dumb, but here's my buddy was throwing a. So it has 240 frames per second slow motion, which like works really well. The camera's just gorgeous. Here's a boot, so I could double tap here to open up the camera, and it's pretty quick. So essentially, like, tap. Whoops. It's very quick, and then like the snapping shutters. So I just took like 10 pictures, and it processes HDR in the background. The processor can handle that. So whereas like, okay, this will be the best.
I wish your current camera could.
And here's the thing. So I'm gonna take my current camera, and it's gonna take an HDR picture, and then I'll take this one that takes an HDR picture. This is actually gonna be really freaking tough to do. Here, I'll take it first with this.
Predicted demo fail.
So I'm taking the picture here. So I click the button. Oh, this is so freaking difficult. This is actually
What are you
like
trying to do? What are you trying to
The
do?
HDR. Okay, here. Hold on.
We're gonna see spider hands right now. Like what the?
So tap on the priv. It's still taking it. Okay. I just lack the phone. Okay.
Fail.
I can't show that. But that's the
Fail.
frustration.
Wow.
So I've gone to take a picture with the priv of my dog who's like sitting there. He's making a goofy face or something. Pull out the phone, take a picture of the priv. The problem is when HDR is on, you have to hold your phone still for literally 3 or 4 seconds. What's happening with the Pixel, it's kind of ridiculous, is it's actually constantly taking pictures. So when I haven't taken the picture, it's like it's taking pictures. So when you actually click to take a picture on the Pixel, it then just chooses a picture that it already took, and then it starts processing it in the background. So
Process in the background. It's kind of like capturing a video.
Yeah.
3 seconds before you actually click on the button.
Yep.
So basically, when you click on the button, that's it's already processed pretty much the majority of the image, and then it just takes the best one out of all of them, and that's what you end up with.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, like, it's noticeable. And, you know, someone might ask about Snapchat, because realistically, Snapchat runs like shit on every single Android phone that I've ever had. So I'll just like boost it up, because like Snapchat.
You mean the priv?
No, dude, any Android phone. Don't add me on Snapchat. I never go on. But it's like, it's just quick. I could like boot up videos. Everything just works immediately, and there's no problems with it at all. I could quick switch between the camera and Snapchat without like any problems. It's so damn quick, and that's the
This is all very fascinating, Alex. However, I'm more interested in like how fast that device is after 6 months.
Oh, the thing is, the Priv was never this quick ever
Out
for
of the
me.
gate.
Yeah. So
I think
I agree, though. I'm curious to see what happens with the two. My Priv progressively got slower over the years.
It'll be interesting to compare the Pixel with the 60, because they're both running the same processor. They got the same amount of RAM in them, right?
No, they have a different processor technically.
Do
One's
they?
got the 820, then
820.
DTEC 60 has the 820, and the 821 will be in or is in the Pixel.
So an interesting thing
about
about
821. Sorry, my bad. I thought it was the 820.
But so an interesting thing about the 821 in here, there are two variants of the 821. This has the same GPU as the 820, so there's no difference there. This just has like a 6% battery saving, or like a 10% battery savings. So essentially, it's kind of like an 821 that's downclocked to be an 820, but you get battery savings with it because the 821 works as well as the 820 does. So they're using it more so for the battery saving aspect, but it's not really downclocked. It's just a different variant. So it's kind of like the 820, just more battery efficient. But one thing that I did want to show, like, I haven't charged my phone all day, so I did want to show like a battery test, because someone would probably be curious about that. So 18 hours ago is when I took it off the charger. But as you can see, like that straight line there, I was sleeping. So it went from 100% down to 98% after 8 hours of sleep. So like those works great.
Wow.
Yeah, so the screen here, so I have 35% battery life left. It says average 8 hours left, and the screen on time is at 3.5 hours. So
Nice.
3.5 hours is still 35%, and I was listening to music in BBM. Like my phone has been on for 18 hours, not on any charger, but 8 of that I was sleeping. It was in doze totally.
Priv definitely had battery issues.
Yeah. Yes, it did.
Mine's starting to heat up again this week, and I'm losing my mind.
Thank you. I can't get it to get hot no matter what I do. I don't care if I'm in Periscope, Snapchat, video taking. Dude, I took videos for probably like 35 to 40 minutes straight last night, because my buddies were trying to do stupid like trick shots with something, or with like beer pong or whatever, and I was trying to test out the camera in like crappy low light whatever. And the thing was, like, I would click a video and I would be filming and nothing happened, and then I would just pop in, delete it really quick, go back and record a video, and I wouldn't even miss anything because it was just so quick, and my phone didn't heat up whatsoever. Like, this has never been hot in the slightest. So that alone has just made me feel like this gets hot, and then it starts downclocking the CPU, and then it starts running like shit.
Yeah.
Like that's
exactly
what happens.
Yeah.
So
thank you, 808.
yeah. Yep.
Thank you, BlackBerry.
Yeah. You could have went with the 810.
You cheap bastard.
You cheat me out of 2 numbers on a processor.
But they didn't have a choice, and I think that's one of the biggest problems where having Qualcomm be this master kind of distributor, they don't really have any competition. They have the patents, they could do what they want. So Apple, like, they're so ahead in terms of processors because they're doing their own internal thing. So, rumors are that Google's going to start doing their own internal thing. Maybe in like 2 years, that Google phone will be running their own processor, which will be a big step in the right direction. But,
there's
here's what I'm thinking about the Pixel, right? I think Alphabet and specifically Google kind of have been looking at where they want to go and what they want to do. And I personally think that the Pixel was a bit rushed to market.
It was just a tweet released last night that said it essentially was. It was an idea in December of 2015.
Yeah, they were gonna go Aura. They were gonna do different things, and I honestly think it's kind of like we need to be in the market this year. We cannot wait any longer. Yep. We need something out there, and it's gonna get way better. I think in years to come.
This was probably going to be waterproofed if they had more time. Mm-hmm. Like there's certain things like that. Yeah,
exactly. And I think like honestly, it has an SD card slot? No. Yeah.
No
SD card?
Nope.
It's all the Google unlimited storage.
I have the 128 gigabyte variant specifically because it doesn't have an SD slot, and 32 gigabytes. It's not good enough for me. But
you know what though, I can easily do with 32 gigs personally.
Yeah, I could. 32 would work. 16 no.
They don't even have 16. They just have 32 and 128.
With the aspect with 16, the issue is that the OS itself takes up too much memory for 16. You're left with almost nothing, right?
It takes up, I think, 8 gigabytes.
That's what I don't like about the DTEC 50, I think.
Yeah.
That's like the one qual might have, I'd say.
But I don't hold music on my phone, which is one of the big things a lot of people do. I don't have any music on there. I have podcasts that I listen to and audiobooks that I listen to, and that's it. And then photos, probably once every couple weeks I go through, and then I move my photos to my network drive, which is then get cloud backed up through a service, and I clean it up that way. So I really don't need a crap ton of space on my phone per se, and I can easily live with 32 gigs right now.
The way that I was able to justify the 128 is because for like Pocket Casts,
you a baller.
No. For Pocket Casts and Google Play Music, I like to download a playlist or a bunch of podcasts, which may take up like 2, 3, 4 gigabytes of space.
Exactly.
And so I could do offline, so I don't have to be using data. If I didn't have to do that, if data wasn't a problem or an annoyance, then absolutely I could get away with 32. I think 64 is the perfect amount. I'd be totally okay with that. But of course they do 32 and 128. It's like 128, I'm not going to use anywhere near that much. 32, I don't know. On the Priv is 32. I had enough problems with that, and I had an SD card. Programs just start adding stuff up.
Priv is a terrible benchmark for you to compare anything to.
Oh, it really is. No, it is. It is.
Easy what you say about memory, because Bill Gates did say that no one should never need more than 640 kilobytes.
But that's the interesting bit though, because like I feel like for storage, it's not as big of a deal. Okay, like even looking at the future, a lot of it's going to the cloud. And great, like say that we get 8K video, that's going to be a problem. If you're recording 8K on your phone may run out of internal space to record it to. But by that time, like maybe it'll just record to the cloud. Like it doesn't even need to record internal. So I feel like it's realistically, for my own usage for the next year and a half, 2 years of this phone, I'm not going to need to use 128 gigabytes. But
that's fair.
So I'm seeing a bigger shift here, guys, in terms of, again, Pixel Rush is just shit hardware. Like, you know what I mean, Alex? Like, it's nice hardware, but it's still shit hardware, right? Like, it's just ubiquitous. It has nothing unique about it. And you would have thought Google could have kind of taken a risk on it, especially it being their first entry. It just seems like the homogenized sameness that everybody else has. It's a good phone, no doubt, but it seems like a lot of companies these days in the mobile space are turning to services as the real defining differentiator between them. And if we look at BlackBerry and kind of juxtapose their position in the market, you kind of are at a loss. It's like, the hub security. You know, it's like this productive and secure offering that, you know, keeps the monthly updates and things like that. And like that's the unique value proposition of BlackBerry's Android, whereas a lot of what's coming ahead is going to be these assistants and all, you know, all the things that they can do. So you can imagine like the Google Assistant and some of the variety that's brought in there is what the ultimate service is, right? And of course, there's things like, you know, the customer service that they actually have. But in terms of the core consumer-facing service, it's basically the assistant. And with Google, with Apple, you see a little bit more of a service through like their entire closed ecosystem, but Google will get there in time. Do you think, gentlemen, that BlackBerry will continue to kind of add on to the service offering that they have, or are they going to keep it confined maybe to one or two apps as opposed to more of like a central type of experience? Like Hub Plus is a great foundation, but do you see them kind of bringing new features and things like that? Most of what we're seeing in these beta updates with like what we saw in October, kind of just small things here and there, and it's not really at the pace I would like things. What are you guys' thoughts on it in terms of BlackBerry's continued software push? Like even Alex, I know on your Pixel, you're kind of using some of those BlackBerry services.
I hope that BlackBerry would be pushing updates more than they can.
You don't have to be giant anymore, Alex, just by the way.
What do you mean? Oh, I'm not. I switched that up.
Okay. So I should do the same then. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I am a little bit disappointed with some of the updates to the Priv and even to their apps. It seems like they're fairly slow updates, but at the same time, like you can compare it to when was the last time BBM was updated?
Let's not talk about BBM.
It was to revert that mistake that they did. No, with that layout change. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of wish. I feel like that's what a lot of us hope for. We're like, you know, BlackBerry's now in the Android space. They could differentiate themselves by pushing quick updates for the OS, and you know they're gonna have a beta, which is great because now they can push like OS updates to the beta and test it out early, and maybe they'll be one of the first manufacturers to get Nougat. And like we were really optimistic about that, and to kind of see how it's been playing out. It's slow. It's not like they're the back of the pack or anything like that. They're still pushing out security updates quickly, but they're not at the front of the pack, which is the one thing that we thought they would be a unique differentiator in that aspect, and they haven't turned out to be that. So that's what's disappointed me. But maybe I was thinking too highly of what they would be able to do, or maybe that's not at all what their focus is.
Maybe AT&T. Blaze, what about you, man? How do you feel right now in terms of kind of like the service offering that BlackBerry has? I mean, we're talking innovations. If I see a Mercury with like, you know, a unique two-factor authentication type tactile thing, that's value prop. Like that's something I see as a part of the core security service BlackBerry's offering, right? So do you see them continuing to kind of push down that vein, keeping it kind of dry and not so flashy? I mean, getting manual settings in the camera was like kind of like, whoa, like that's actually nice to see, you know? It's a consumer-ish feature that I can appreciate, but also, you know, maybe business people who want to do the manual type focused. Are they going to have that consumer focus? Are they going to expand on that with the Hub Plus suite, especially being cross-platform? If you guys look, Hub services lost 500,000 users in Google Play. So how do you feel about it, Blaze?
I think what they've done thus far is basically within the realm of their capability to be able to go ahead and push out these things. I think if they sort of, at this point, dove too far into the Android ecosystem and started, you know, pushing out things, that's where things would start to get a little bit chaotic. And that's where, you know, in the past they have sort of screwed up because, you know, certain things were released well before their time and so on and so forth. I think they have a very concentrated focus. They have a nice roadmap of the things that they want to go ahead and implement. And in certain respects, they're sort of keeping their ears to the ground and listening to what users want. I don't think at this point they're looking to, you know, go ahead and reinvent the wheel or anything like that. They're basically just sticking with the basics that they have implemented, making sure that the basic stuff that they have already out there works in such a way and it doesn't necessarily you know, cause a lot of user frustration or anything like that. Maybe once they get the basics down, once they reach a point where, they're satisfied with Hub Plus and everything that they have already implemented, that is when they'll start looking at some of the other things. But for now, I think they're just going to stick with what they have already, pushed out to the market, ensuring that stuff works appropriately. Catching whatever bugs that they possibly can. I don't think we should expect too much in terms of innovation or, like new applications that are going to be coming out for BlackBerry's version of Android. I think they're just going to stick with what they know. Unfortunately, that's kind of like a dry scenario. Like, that kind of stuff does get a little bit boring for those who want more, but at the same time, it's within their realm of possibility to be able to go ahead and keep those things going, right? Once they start taking on too much more, that's when problems arise, and when they have the they start to lose quality control once they take on too much.
You talk about in their realm of capability. Do you think like they're a little bit limited at their size and scope right now, or are they just kind of way more focused on the enterprise side of the business like right now? Like, do you think they're kind of like up to their neck in terms of the software, and they're kind of, maybe don't have enough resources, or is it just a focus thing?
No, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, they don't want, the resources are not there because it's not necessarily their direct focus. You know what I mean? If it was their direct focus, then they would go ahead and shift whatever people they possibly could to that aspect of it, or hire on new users to be able to go ahead and deal with the situation. But again, it's both of those things. Their focus isn't necessarily directly on that, and therefore the resources are not there because it's not something that's at the top of their list of things to do, right? If they wanted to, then they could just go ahead and pull everybody and put them on that. But even as John Chen said in one of those interviews after the recent earnings, he's like, we're hiring people, we want engineers, we want everything, but that was all essentially on like the QNX side of things for IoT and so on and so forth. So I think, if they really wanted those resources to be there, they would be there, but it's not their extreme focus, so they're not. And the people that are dealing with it to the best of their capability.
Well, if Blaze says it, I gotta back it up then, right?
I think the one thing people, like especially the BlackBerry enthusiasts, need to keep in mind, BlackBerry's been in this Android space for such a short period of time. Yeah. Priv, not even a year ago, was launched, right? And here we are. A lot of people complain about various services and so on, features and stuff like that. BBN's only 3 years ago since it went cross-platform, right? And keep in mind that BlackBerry was not looking for Android developers before those days. So now there are the companies in catch-22 scenario where they got to make up time, but at the same time, all the good engineers and software developers already been chewed up by all the other OEMs and companies, or moved on developing their own apps and not really interested in working for BlackBerry. So kind of got to take things in stride and be like, okay, when you're into the Android space, it's not so bad right now, but yeah, there's 50 million things I'd love to see updated with the hub, and 50 million things plus with BBM that should be updated, and keep bashing my head as why it hasn't been done yet.
I'm worried more longer term because it's just been a bad rap, a bad track record in software for consumers. Playbook, boom. BB10, boom. It's like Alex is recommending Priv to his whole family, right? And then we have a situation like this where, can BlackBerry really offer the level of support? Can they play at the scale that they really want to play? Longer term. I think, again, it's going to come back to those partnerships that they have and whether they can really kind of grassroot themselves and really kind of sow those seeds in this Android space. And I think they have a potential to do it. I think it will take time for us to see kind of the full fruits of that labor. But right now, I don't think it's necessarily a set story. We don't know whether, years down the line, this Android endeavor is going to be something they're still supporting. We just don't know. Similarly as BlackBerry 10, it's like we're going to get some support, but a semblance of what will happen, 5 years out from now is really hard to say. Do you guys almost wish they totally kind of ended the endeavor and just went totally enterprise software and left handsets entirely? Or do you think that it's something that's worthwhile for them? Like, I don't want to be let down by BlackBerry devices in the future, as I kind of have been with some in terms of the updates we've been getting.
I want there to be a player in the space, a serious player who does a physical QWERTY keyboard. I mean, I'm a big advocate of like I have a mechanical keyboard. Like I'm a keyboard guy. So I would be sad to see like the only phones that now exist are all touchscreen slabs. And I understand like that's the future, the idea of the future where, what was that? They just came out with like a Lenovo laptop or a tablet
Yeah, just
thing,
glass keys.
and it's just glass keys, and it's terrible to type on. Like if I bought that, I would literally take this and put it on top of that glass slab to use it. So
Yeah.
I understand that's the future, and that's the way in theory that it makes sense. But until you can fake glass to make it feel like you're typing on like something physical, I don't think that we're anywhere near that. So we should have a physical keyboard in the meantime. And like I do have a few family members who they love the physical QWERTY keyboard, but at the same time, out of the 6 or 7 people or the 7 people I have on the Priv right now, only one of them is using the physical QWERTY keyboard. The other ones, they forgot it's even there and they don't even really, they're not using it.
The Priv's physical keyboard is just so horrible.
But it's not that bad. Like I know some people.
I don't want to talk about it, man.
I used it. I liked it a lot. And it's not.
Yeah,
They're not
you liked it. You liked everything. You
No.
love your Pixel now, man.
No,
Two
dude.
months from now, you're gonna be like, "Fuck the Pixel."
They're not using. They're not using the physical keyboard because it sucks. They just like genuinely. I think it's out of sight, out of mind. They kind of. I think they forget this thing slides up, and now they're so used to touching on the touchscreen that they're like, oh, my mom maybe slides it up accidentally and like, oh, yeah, well, let me close that up,
It's like accidentally opening like
Yeah.
a package or something you didn't want to eat. You're like, "Oh, let me package."
You
that
have
back."
to literally train yourself to open it up to use it, or else you're not going to use it. And that may be the biggest downfall with the Pixel. The part that I loved about it most.
I think that you just explained the downfall of the Nintendo Switch as well. It's like, oh wait, I can actually take it with me. I left it docked the entire time. People are dumb, and I honestly think that's why Google took zero risk on the Pixel, because it's like why even waste the effort? LG dropping modularity after just one try with the G5. Same thing, right? That modular concept, and you can say Priv is a modular device too, to a degree. It's just an integrated modular device. People just aren't really about them. And one of my biggest complaints about the Priv was that I ultimately, to type with it, had to slide it up. Like, I loved the keyboard shortcuts and things, but to slide it open and then like press a key is a little bit like too much going on, right? If that keyboard was always there like it is on the Passport, I could launch apps like at a second spot, right? But having to add that extra layer in there is a little bit haphazard. I'm just at this point, guys, worried about kind of what the perception of BlackBerry's consumer assets will be and whether that will have an effect on the enterprise sell. I mean, we saw good things in New Zealand, Australia, right? We're getting new enterprise software contracts for watchdogs and things like that. Like, that's really good. But I'm really just interested in how the degradation of the consumer side of what BlackBerry was kind of just fallen to the wayside. And there's just not enough messaging about what's going on. It's so weird that in today's market, the whole Alicia Keys thing, the whole Keep Moving campaign, would work now as opposed to then, because it's a product that is actually like, user friendly and acceptable. And it's just weird, this kind of, cycle we've been in here. And I hope BlackBerry can kind of pull away from the path, so to speak, and really plot their own course. Because right now it seems like they're just trying a bunch of Me Too stuff, Oh, we're building a cell phone. Oh, we're in asset tracking. Oh, we're in MDM, and EMM. I'd really like to see them have like something that no one else is doing. It's great that they all do it well and they're 6 out of 6 and whatever for high security. But I think there has to be more to the BlackBerry story. Otherwise, you're kind of just building it toward, some kind of finale, And I'd hate for that to happen where it ultimately just gets absorbed, so to speak, and it had nothing unique, and it just dies off from there. Like Blaze, I think the fact that WebOS could transition to a television was something that was at least aspiring, you know? It didn't totally just fade out and become nothing. It kind of lived on in its own way.
Yeah.
Do you think BB10 has a chance of that in any form?
No.
You think it's playbooked out at this point?
Yeah. You know, as I said many times, BB10 is a great operating system for a phone, but it doesn't have the ecosystem support, and you know, at this point, the hardware requirements for it are, for lack of a better word, they're lagging. Like anybody who takes on BB10 has to go ahead and rebuild everything for it, unless they want to run it off of the specs that are already set, right? Like from the BB10 devices, you know, it's going to require a lot for BB10 to go on, and I just don't see it happening. Even with everybody saying that they're going to go ahead and they have companies interested in licensing BB10, I think that's just a little bit of corporate speak to be able to go ahead and keep things moving, keep moving.
Yeah.
But yeah,
irony.
Yeah, it's reached the point where it's like I don't know. Back to the general question, and you know, everything like that. I think BlackBerry would have been, and really, it's a terrible thing to say because I'm basically putting myself out of a job at that point. But I think they would have been better off basically just severing the hardware ties in terms of handsets for smartphones and stuff like that, and then just concentrating on the software side of things and the other hardware aspects that they have going on, you know, with the IoT boxes and stuff like that, because you know, it's something I think it's so damaged at this point that it's beyond repairability.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just need to sever that tie, and then
and I honestly think, Blaze, you've hit the pinnacle of where this conversation needs to go, because I honestly think BlackBerry's put it to consumers at this point, and John Chen's given it to the people in a way that says, look, if you want our device, we're going to give it to you, right? But at the end of the day, he's expecting, I think, a lot of consumers to do exactly what Alex has done and enjoy their services on a phone that is going to get the support and everything else, because BlackBerry honestly doesn't want to have to spend their time updating an OS. They don't want to have to spend their time, you know, going through the motions with carriers and all the hoopla and all that, right? And I think this is where they're positioning themselves to slowly wean out of hardware to a point where they maybe toss a QWERTY device here and there through partners and whatever, and it's a less focused, consolidated effort, but they still have some kind of proposition there. No, and that's really where it may go.
I think that makes a lot of sense because, I mean, even some people have complained about software updates. So even with the Pixel, it's only guaranteed 2 years of software updates. People are like, that's terrible. Like, you know, the iPhone has got like 4 or 5 years or whatever. But the problem at the end of the day is Qualcomm, and they're limited to essentially they're only supporting their chips for 2 years. So Google can only really update it for 2 years because of Qualcomm. And people are like, well, wait a minute, there's an easy way around this. Google should be able to pay Qualcomm more money to support their chips longer, which will then allow Google to then, you know, pay. So it's like, to get more years of updates out, Google would have to spend more money, essentially make less money off the hardware. And that's the same thing with BlackBerry. Like, there's a certain cost associated with keeping phones up to date. When you sell hardware, yeah, they might sound like crazy high margins. Like, the phone was $220 to manufacture, and they sold it for $600. So there's a decent chunk of hardware there. Take out advertising expenses, take out the cost of maintenance and software updates, and take out all these different things, and you're stuck with a really small margin. BlackBerry is much better off just like, hey, buy our hub suite for $12 a year or whatever it is, and they're just maintaining this this software, and that's all they're doing, along with this software and that software and that software. Having to deal with this, like, here's a new device, let's promote it, it's the best thing since sliced bread, okay, down period, and new device, no, it's just, it's not worth it. They can be a software company and make money a lot easier and really focus down and become great at what they are in software and not have to deal with hardware. It's just, you know, it's a waste of time in a certain light. They don't want to do that. I think that's a great point.
They should have did this when Thorsten Hines announced that strategic review. They really should have went out and found that hardware manufacturer that was willing to partner with them full time, and BlackBerry would be like, hey, all right, cool, we're going to do the software. And maybe then BB10 might have had a glimmer of hope. You know what I mean?
And we heard conversations that Thorsten Hines was in conversations to license BB10 before it hit market, right?
Yeah.
And now John Chen just knocked on those doors again and said, "You interested in Android?" You know? And it's just painfully ironic at this point, because I feel that there have been pieces and elements of the strategy that could have worked at certain times, but it never all came together in a proportional place. I think way too optimistic on BB10, way too optimistic on the developers.
And $1 billion worth of inventory. $1 billion. Like, come on.
They got a great price though, let me tell you. And it's with the strategy BlackBerry is undertaking now, you kind of have to put yourself up against it and ask yourself a question like, well, where am I going to be and where do I need to be on a mobile phone in the next year, right? What do I need to and want to get done? And Alex has done that, and he said, well, this is going to work best for me, you know?
Yeah.
This is the option that I think is going to be the strongest suit for, and of course, you know, he's well integrated into the, you know, the apps for work and that whole side of the business aspect. So Google totally makes sense. But, you know, you asked earlier for your friend, Alex, before you kind of went into the conversation. I said iPhone, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't know any background that they were already, you know, all friends on iPhone. But iPhone was the option.
It's the safest and easiest and most sensible option for most people, and that's what sucks.
And that's the lens you need to look at BlackBerry under, that they aren't that anymore. There was a time where BB10, it was all very, very sensible.
Oh, by a curve. Even, you know, curve. Like, oh, absolutely. Oh, what phone should I get? Get a curve. Like, come on, get a curve. Like, everyone gets a curve.
In the day of BlackBerry where you could reliably suggest something and know that it's going to be there. And I don't really want to harp on, you know, whether the Android and the DTEC 50 and the Priv are going to get supported, because as Alex mentioned, there's hardware limitations that just exist in this industry. But I think more along the lines of they have to have the conversation told from both sides. Otherwise, the side that is buying the hardware has no idea what to expect. So I expect them to come out and give a little bit of an inclination as to what's to come at some point when they're ready. And we've heard them say, we'll release our roadmap when it's ready. Well, they never released a roadmap. So what does that tell you, right? That it's literally probably aimless right now. They're kind of going with what they've digested over some time and making smarter, more prolonged decisions as they kind of navigate the place that they're going right now. And I think they will get there. But
the thing is,
you have to be practical.
I think that they're clearing out whatever consisted of a previous roadmap. That's why they're not telling you what is leading up on the roadmap, because they're basically clearing off whatever was remaining on their pre-existing roadmap. You know what I mean? Like the DTEC 60 was set a while ago. Mercury was set a while ago, and that's why we have the software message being delivered. And as we mentioned earlier on the podcast, it's kind of like overlapping and kind of silly, because now you're like, you told everybody, you're like, hey, we're a software company, but check out this new device, right? But that's basically them filtering off of whatever it was that was remaining on their existing roadmap. And, you know, we're going to see the DTEC 60, we're going to see the Mercury, and then it remains, I think once the Mercury hits, that is when it becomes really questionable as to what BlackBerry is doing in terms of the hardware, because we don't have a roadmap. Like, we don't have anything to go by after that fact, other than the announcement of them basically still continuing to build BlackBerry branded devices at that point, right? Like, that's the only sign of a future in terms of the hardware solution that we have right at this present point. So, you know, we're going to see the DTEC 60, we're going to see the Mercury, and then the questions have to be raised about what comes after that, because for now we're just stuck on these BlackBerry branded devices that technically BlackBerry won't have a whole lot of association with. And that's where I want to see a roadmap. Like, what comes after that? What what is the future after that scenario? Because again, we're basically clearing out inventory at this point. This is all stuff that was set months ago, and whatever happens in the future is going to be more important than what is happening now.
Deep.
And based off of this model, how much does BlackBerry even themselves know when a new device is going to pop out? Really?
Exactly, right?
You know what I mean? They're the guys that are doing the software aspect. TCL or whoever else they partner with may pop up and say, hey, we're going to throw the device with your OS next week.
Yeah.
And BlackBerry like, okay, cool, sounds good. Right? And that
send me a couple so I can play with it.
Send me a couple and send me some screenshots or renders, whatever, and we'll throw it up on the site. And that kind of leaves us who are all picking at it and trying to dig into the weeds and trying to talk to various contacts to find out what's going on, when them themselves probably don't even know. So we're like chit-chatting, wondering what's going to happen. And also the next week, the DTEC 800 drops, right?
Yeah.
The BBB100-1. So we had a little mess up, guys. And by mess up, I mean Alex got all the audio, but he never split the podcast into 2 shows. So we're going to go for about another 15 minutes, and we're just going to give you one very long show that will encompass both our pre-post and after show. And we'll get it right. Third time will be the charm, I hope, right, Alex?
Yes. I mean, this
Congrats
was
to the non-Patreon guys.
Yes.
Exactly. So we
for those still watching right now, because you stayed on past the 3 minutes of black.
Yeah.
I salute you. I salute you. Wow.
Yeah. No, there's 8 people watching right now. I just went and switched it to unlisted instead of private or whatever. But it's totally fine. Show some people kind of what we talk about in like the after show, because I think. I mean, we kind of get into some really good discussion here because it's a little bit more freeform. We don't need to focus on the actual topics and Patreon questions, and we can just kind of start going. I feel like we get into some good conversations. So I think it's good to let some people see what we talk about and see if this is their cup of tea.
You're doing your own marketing.
I'm just glad I didn't say anything crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Blaze, like I said all of that in the first 15 minutes of the episode.
Probably should have, yeah.
Mercury, designed like the BlackBerry Classic, QWERTY keyboard, Snapdragon 625, which is, I believe, what's in the idle, like the idle line or something like that. 4.5-inch screen, which is weird. 3 gigabytes of RAM, 32 storage, 18 rear, 8 megapixel front, 3,400 milliamp hour battery, high precision and craftsmanship, aluminum housing, aimed at enterprise. Who the hell an enterprise? Outside of like governments, I just don't see like the appeal, and I worry about the price. I really do, because I'm getting
totally gonna mess it up.
What would you guys pay for it?
$800. No.
You would, you bastard. You bought your privet like $700.
$740.
$40, yes. Yeah. How much would you guys pay? Because I'm at a place where if DTEC 60 is coming out at, let's say, $499, $699 Canadian, if this is coming in like, but it's a DTEC type, you know what I'm saying? Like DTEC 50 is closer in specs to the Mercury than the DTEC 60 will be. So it's like it's not a high-end phone, but it will probably look like a high-end phone, The Classic is a very nice piece of kit. It's really well built.
It is.
I mean, it's a tank. It's a really nice piece of hardware. So in the way that it's held its value, I imagine like if they put a device to market where they had the 300, 400, 500 lineup, that would make a lot of sense. It'd be a nice trifecta: DTEC 50, Mercury, DTEC 60, and you're kind of hitting that sweet spot. But $400 is going to be, difficult, I think, for them, especially with the kind of innovation they're putting into this keyboard and things like that. I don't know, all the costs associated therein. Using some of these like lower end specs or middle range specs is definitely going to be positive for some aspects of it. You have a smaller screen, right? You have a really big battery, and you have a pretty power, efficient system on chip. I mean, it's going to be a pretty awesome device any way you slide it. But how much, is it worth to you? Like, Alex, for you to really consider, that device, even as a recommendation for someone who wants a QWERTY, what price range would you like it to be in?
That's where it gets really tough. Well, actually, this is something that I had to think a lot about for recommendations, because right now, like my buddy, I'm trying to recommend him what to do, and one of the things is like, okay, well maybe because he has the Edge program through AT&T, so he could trade it in his phone right now and get a replacement phone. He can get a Samsung or an iPhone or whatever, and he's like, okay, well, can I get a Pixel? And it's like, no, you can't get a Pixel because they are not on AT&T yet. It's like, okay, so what can I get? And it's like, oh, you should get a OnePlus 3. Oh, no, you'd have to buy $400 outright to get the OnePlus 3. Like, so as weird as it is, for it to work for him, it needs to be a phone that's currently on AT&T. So I think if this phone is on AT&T, for instance, and they hit like a, I don't know, like a $400 price range realistically, this would be the physical QWERTY, maybe I could say $500 because it has the physical QWERTY 2, decent specs.
I just don't want to spend $1,000 between DTEK 60 and the Mercury in like a short period of time.
But so people don't even.
I'm gonna buy Blazes in 2 years. Fuck it.
Most people aren't even gonna be looking at this phone as like a $500-600 phone anyway. They're gonna be looking at it as, oh, I'm right now making a $1,750 a month payment on my Priv, and I'm gonna have to make a $15 per month payment on this phone. Okay, like that makes sense. So it actually goes down in price. So really, anything lower than the Priv, and if they have it go to carriers, then I think they'll be okay for the average person who's buying it.
I just want to toss it out there that, we're assuming that it will actually even hit a carrier.
Well, and that's
what I was thinking, yeah. This doesn't look good. The Priv does not look good for carrier relations.
No, not at all.
No. Well, it's not so bad up north. Up here, anyway.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think it is. And I'm not up there. I don't know. But at the same point, I imagine with just like the returns and things like that we're seeing anyway, even if people reviewed it really well and liked it, they still probably had a lot of back office stuff that had to be annoying, but you're right. DTEK 50 hit carriers up there, right?
Yeah, so it's carriers and it's on displays too. So here in Kingston, anyway, I've seen it in displays. That's the basis of my statement there. That's all. Like,
that's a fair point.
Right. So.
And then Sean Chen's crapping on the Canadians about it.
Exactly. Like John there, that hits the heart, right?
Here's the thing: is that like the DTEK 50 is basically, it was sold as essentially a fleet device and a low cost fleet device and a low cost consumer device, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is the Mercury going to fall into that category as well? It doesn't seem like that's the stance that BlackBerry has on it, at least at this point. I would expect it to hit carriers if it does come across as that being the case. If it follows the same, path as the DTEK 50, I would expect it to hit carriers. However, if it's going to be something that BlackBerry considers something that they can get a higher margin off of and inflate the price on, then I don't think it will hit carriers, because I don't think carriers would be actually interested in it, right?
I agree. It's tough. I think BlackBerry needs to really the partnerships and the licensing can work. It all can work, but I think really they need to drill down on the nitty-gritty here as to how they're going to actually make that happen, because they need to get to lower price points with high hardware. I mean, they, at this point, if they're going to sell services, need to go for volume again, right? That's what made service access fees so, rich for them in the revenue perspective, because they were churning devices back then and did have millions that they were selling. They need to get back to that if they hope that, to just touch a bunch of phones on the software with Hub Plus, or want to even mess around in the hardware space. You got to make money, and if they're not making money, like what's the point? Even just to break even, it's kind of like, what's the point? I think they really need to start like really redefining what they want to do with that piece of their business. And I think if they focus with some of these devices and do their very best to not fudge the messaging from here to then, it can be successful. But there's still a lot of hurdles. We don't know what kind of snowballs are coming downhill, gathering momentum, about to attack BlackBerry. Samsung has a keyboard cover for $100 or $90 or something like that, right? And I know, yeah, it's just a stupid keyboard cover, but honestly, if you want a tactile experience, way cheaper. You can get the Samsung that will, have all those features.
I've never seen one of those in person. Everybody always says, "Oh, well, BlackBerry exists. I've never seen one." Well, guess what? I've never seen a freaking Samsung keyboard cover either. So
I haven't seen them in person, but I've seen like YouTube videos with people like using them and talking about like how they love BlackBerry, but this is just more practical, And for some, it may be. I think honestly, if BlackBerry can continue to keep that vein of innovation going, and they can show us that they still have some, personality in this market, then the carriers will get on board with a QWERTY, just like they did the Priv. I think they respected the Priv, the carriers. Yeah, it kind of maybe let them down per expectation, but I think they respected the ingenuity and the engineering and all of that, and that's why they took a bet on it. And if BlackBerry can continue to at least do that, they're going to continue to hold some kind of market presence, maybe in a new way. I think the kiosk idea is a good one, but I also see it as a very kind of quick way to just kind of sell inventory as well,
Yeah.
If I'm trying to get rid of some classics, let me put a sales force out there and get rid of them. Like, it's like liquidation at that point. And the deals they were doing when that shop opened was like crazy, which are like the prices we have now. So
it actually blows my mind they don't set one of those up here in Ottawa. Like not Toronto, Ottawa, where the hub of all the Canadian government services and a lot of head corporations operate out of.
They're probably already on BlackBerry already, though, right? I mean, even BB10, they're probably already.
The government definitely, yes, but not necessarily the corporate heads that are up there and stuff. But it's not just the selling of the devices; it's also showing your face, right? With all the big guns up there that make decisions. Because keep in mind, the MPs in Parliament Hill now can choose whatever device they want. They're not all. It's only the federal government departments, not the actual elected members, that are
Fair point. Imagine if they did a kiosk in like Washington D.C., like right out of that Chase Center that they have. Like there's definitely they need to go after it. I think that the retail strategy is great, just from a presence perspective. Even if it's a pop-up kiosk and it's just directing you online, like Pixel's doing the same thing, Google's doing the same thing. I mean, you got to get out there. And I know they have their shop in Dubai still, I believe, in the mall, which is still pretty big. So they have some kind of presence. They just need to unify that strategy. It seems too disparate right now, especially with this Indonesian market push. Like they might be able to revamp some kiosks like in that region and really make some significant headway. But, that's how it is. I'm hoping that they can make some quality devices that come out of these third parties. That's really what Blaze is waiting to see before he deuces out completely.
It's true.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that will intrigue me is a physical QWERTY device that is done like, nougat and it's beautiful and innovative and things like that. I don't think BlackBerry can make an all-touch device that can ever tempt me at this point. But I don't think that's where they should be playing anyway. I mean, if they do play in that space, they're going to do, not a high-end device, and I only want a high-end device at this point. So nothing they can do can interest me unless they do something with the physical keyboard and just be different and do, their roots. So
you're making me want to get a Pixel, Alex. That's not good.
I know. It's got me in the same boat too. You are a good salesman. I can tell. I can see why. Happy families on the Priv.
No. It's so great. No. It's on Verizon. No. It's on AT&T by Verizon. That's Alex's spiel. No,
my mom. Dude, hold on. My mom called me out the other day because I just got. This is really funny. So I went downstairs when I got my Pixel, and she was standing there next to my stepdad, and she was, talking, and then I was like, I kind of go over that I have a smirk on my face, and I have a phone. She's like, oh, you have a new phone? And I said, yeah. She's like, so we're all getting off BlackBerry now? Is that what's going on? And I was like, no, it's fine. And
Correct.
I showed her the phone really quick, and then she was like, I'm having problems with the service in my phone. And I was like, I know it's a problem that's going on right now. And she's like, you're the one that switched us over from Verizon to AT&T. I was like, I know. And I was like, I told her, I was like, I might even be going over to Google Fi. It's like a standalone network. She's like, so you switch us over to AT&T, and now you're just ditching us all? And I'm like, no. Like, Mom, I got we got like $1,600 because we switched. Like, we got a lot. We got a big incentive to switch over from Verizon to AT&T, and like, and I was like, I put my foot in my mouth. I was like, I just gotta shut up. Like, she was not happy, but
Look,
so.
you can pull down the notifications with the fingerprint sensor, Mom. Look, it's so cool.
Look how fast it is, Mom. And you can have dual windows and everything. You can tweet while you Snapchat.
She wouldn't. Okay, she would not at all. Like, none of them would really utilize this phone to its fullest potential. But I screwed around with the help within here that you can contact support, and it was really interesting to me because I was thinking, like, obviously someone who doesn't know how to use a phone, they will use the Google support, the 24/7 support. But I'm like, wait a
If they can
minute,
find it.
what?
If they can find it.
Well, dude, you open up settings and it's a main tab. There's settings and then there's support. It's right up front. But so I contacted them, and I actually let me actually share my screen for a quick second. Window capture, create new.
I'm so salty. Ronell posted on Facebook that he's listening to Solange's album while we're live on Upstream.
Oh,
what in the world, bro?
So anyway, I
I
contacted.
could understand, but Solange.
So right? Come
I have
on,
no idea
man.
what that even is. I'm just gonna
It's
pretend.
Beyonce's sister.
Oh, okay. She's famous, like a musician. And
She does music, yeah.
okay,
That's craziness.
so I contacted support, and the girl's name was, thank you for contacting support. My name is Dia. How can I help you? I was like, hi there, Dia. How are you doing today? Great. Yourself? I was being nice. She was being great. She's like, I'm glad to hear you're doing great, doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. Congratulations for your new phone, and welcome to the Pixel family. Like, they're trying to really create, like, you're joining, a community. And I was like, thanks so much. She's like, I got your query. Please give me 2 minutes. I was asking her about, hey, can I join the Android beta to get 7.1.1 or like whatever? Because I was thinking, like, for me, whenever I have a random question about, like, Google now, I can just jump in support and ask them if they don't know, like, whatever. But I get connected within a minute, which is cool. And she's like, the Pixel, there's no need to enroll for the Android beta. It's pre-installed. Essentially, you're going to be getting updates before even Nexus devices anyone or whatever. So it's like, this is a higher tier question that my mom or my aunt's not going to ask them, but they still come and give me support for it. And then we're getting in some details like, well, I'm on 7.1, not 7.1.1, and she was like going back and forth or whatever. But I'm like, this is actually kind of cool because I could just go and get in touch with the Google rep and ask them some random question that's on my mind at any point in time. So it's not just for support. I know they probably don't necessarily want me to do that, but this is also what's in the price of the Pixel that you're paying for. So
basically, for those listening, as we close up shop here, what Alex said is that he can now pawn off his family customer support to Google.
Yep.
It's what he just said.
That's
In a long-winded way.
that's
And he's nodding yes because
but it's true. It is true, and I don't feel bad about it because they can probably give a better support than even I can, because like you get this screen sharing and stuff, and this is the way that it should be. Like, they should be supporting their phone. Like, that's the way that it should be.
Just a quick question, Alex. That wasn't a chat bot, right?
Oh, absolutely not. No. We exchange
It's funny-
phone numbers.
Just
Like,
checking.
we're getting drinks
Just
on
checking.
Friday. No, dude, it's not.
Google takes Amazon's idea and it's brilliant.
Yes. No, but that's really what it is. Yes. People
Just-
like customer support, though.
We're in
Like,
crazy times,
Yeah.
guys. But this upstream's way too long as
It
is.
is.
This call alone in 2 hours. So we apologize for messing everything up. Alex does at least. And that 3 minutes of black is at the intermission. So go to the bathroom and then jump back on.
They
and
don't
enjoy your
see
after show.
see 3 minutes of black. It just chopped. Wait, I don't know.
We'll
I-
find out, won't we?
All
Let's
right,
end it,
guys,
Alex.
we're gonna end it
Blaze
and
and
see what
Scott have a
happens.
life to live.
Out there.
All right.
Now
Alex
we
is gonna
gotta-
add hold music in the middle on that 3 minutes.
All right, guys, have a nice week or something coming up. So, all right, bye.
BlackBerry strong. Keep it.
All right, bye, guys. Enjoy the
Pray
Upstream.
for 60. Pray
Yeah.
for 60.
All right,
See you
later.
guys.